Christopher Webber observed the Manhattan skyline through the car window, the impeccably clean glass reflecting the city's shimmering lights. He had just left an exhausting meeting that, as usual, had ended in his favor. Yet, the sense of victory that had accompanied him over the past years felt increasingly hollow. At just 34 years old, Alexander was one of the world's youngest and most influential billionaires, but the wealth and power he had amassed did little to fill the growing void inside him. The driver, Andrew, navigated the car skillfully through the streets of Brooklyn, a route Alexander rarely took. He sat in silence, his eyes fixed on his phone, scrolling absent-mindedly through market graphs and emails. But something caught his attention, a figure standing on the sidewalk selling lemonade and water bottles under the heat of the sun. "Stop the car," Alexander ordered abruptly. Andrew braked smoothly, surprised but obedient. Alexander stepped out of the car, adjusting his immaculate suit, and walked over to the small makeshift stand. There she was, a young woman with brown hair tied back in a ponytail, and eyes that carried an intensity hard to ignore. Her expression was resolute, as if this small business were a battle she refused to lose. "How much?" Alexander asked, looking at the plastic cups and the pitcher of lemonade in front of her. $1, Lily Carter replied without hesitation. Her tone was direct, almost defiant. She didn't seem the least bit intimidated by the presence of a man so clearly out of her world. Alexander pulled a $50 bill from his wallet and handed it to her. Lily frowned, hesitating. "I said $1, not 50, she countered, holding the bill out for him to take back. "Consider the rest an investment," he said with a faint smile. "Now may I try your lemonade?" She stared at him for a few seconds, trying to figure him out. Finally, she accepted the money and handed him a cup of lemonade. Alexander took a sip, surprised by the simple and refreshing taste. "Very good. Did you make it yourself?" he asked, his tone genuinely curious. "Yes. Water, lemons, and sugar. No secret," she replied, crossing her arms. Alexander noticed something in her response, a mix of pride and caution. He was a man used to reading people, and Lily, with her firm stance and straightforward gaze, was unlike anyone he'd encountered. "So, why sell lemonade? Shouldn't you be somewhere else, doing something grander?" he asked, more curious than condescending. Lily chuckled softly, but the sound lacked joy. It was almost ironic. "Grander like what? Working in an office? I think I'd rather face the sun out here. At least I know every dollar is mine." Alexander didn't know how to respond. This young woman disarmed him in a way he couldn't quite understand. For the first time in years, he felt something beyond control and logic, a spark of interest that caught him off guard. "What's your name?" he asked, trying to keep the conversation going. "Lily." "What's yours?" she replied, with the same straightforward tone. "Alexander." "Christopher Webber." Lily didn't react to the name. There was no admiration, recognition, or even surprise. It was as if he were just another customer at her lemonade stand, and that intrigued him even more. "Well, Christopher Webber, if you're done with your lemonade, you'd better get back to your car. You're blocking my customers," she said, with a faint smirk. For the first time in a long while, Alexander laughed genuinely. He waved at her and returned to his car. But as he settled back into the rear seat, he felt different. The image of Lily, with her confident demeanor and determination, stayed etched in his mind. As the car drove away, he looked back through the rearview mirror, watching her continue selling lemonade with the same energy. For some reason, he knew this wouldn't be their last encounter. That night, while reviewing reports and closing important deals, Alexander realized his mind was elsewhere. He couldn't stop thinking about Lily Carter, about the way she seemed to challenge the world around her, as if refusing to be defeated. And for the first time in a long time, Alexander felt something he couldn't name. It was as though, amidst the suffocating routine, he had found a thread of hope, and he was determined to follow it. In the days that followed, Alexander tried to focus on work, but the image of Lily, with her determination and resilience, lingered in his mind like an unresolved mystery. He attended meetings, signed contracts, and engaged in multi-million-dollar negotiations, but in every quiet moment, her face resurfaced in his thoughts. Something had shifted within him during that encounter, and no matter how hard he tried to ignore it, he knew he had to see her again. On the third day, Alexander could no longer resist. He cancelled an important meeting with investors and asked Andrew to drive him back to the same address in Brooklyn. Andrew didn't ask questions, he simply drove, though Alexander could feel the weight of his driver's curiosity. Even Alexander couldn't fully explain why this young woman fascinated him so much. After all, he was Christopher Webber, a man who could have anything he wanted. Why was he so captivated by a lemonade seller? When they arrived, Alexander spotted Lily across the street, standing at the same corner, serving customers with the same energy he remembered. She hadn't changed at all since their first encounter, yet there was something about her that made the world around him feel different. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out of the car and crossed the street. Lily noticed his approach and raised her eyebrows in surprise. "You again?" she said with a half-smile. "I thought billionaires had more important things to do." "Maybe I decided your lemonade is worth more than my meetings," Alexander replied in a light but sincere tone. Lily laughed, but there was a hint of suspicion in her eyes. "Really? Well, I hope you're not expecting special treatment. It's still $1 a cup." "Fair enough." Alexander placed a $20 bill on the makeshift counter. "I'll take a cup and 10 minutes of your time." Lily paused, studying him as though trying to decipher his intentions. Finally, she sighed and accepted the money. "Fine, but only because I'm curious about what someone like you is doing here for the second time." Alexander took the cup of lemonade and sipped it before responding. The simple, refreshing taste seemed to carry something more, perhaps because of her presence. "I wanted to know more about you, why you're here, why you seem so different from anyone I've ever met." Lily raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "I sell lemonade to pay the bills. There's nothing extraordinary about that." "It's more than that. You're—" Alexander hesitated, searching for the right words. "You're different, direct. You don't try to please anyone, yet you seem to draw people in. That's rare." Lily remained silent for a moment, as though processing his words. Then, with a firm gaze, she replied, "If I'm direct, then let me be honest with you. I don't believe you're here just to drink lemonade. Why are you really here?" Alexander felt the weight of her question, and for a moment he considered giving a vague answer. But instead, he chose the truth. "Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the day we met." Lily looked surprised but quickly composed herself. Her eyes, once challenging, now carried an indecipherable glint. She took a deep breath before responding. "That's interesting. But I'm just a girl trying to survive, Alexander. And you're a billionaire who doesn't understand anything about my life. If you think you can buy me or save me, you're wasting your time." Her honesty hit him like a punch. Alexander wasn't used to being challenged, let alone rejected. Yet instead of feeling offended, he found himself growing even more respectful of Lily. "I'm not here to buy or save you. I'm here because I want to understand you and maybe learn something from you." Lily studied him for a few more seconds, as if gauging his sincerity. Finally, she gave a faint smile, a little softer this time. "All right, Alexander, let's see how far you're willing to go, but I'm not making any promises." Alexander smiled, feeling for the first time in years that he was exactly where he was meant to be. He knew the road with Lily would be complicated, but for the first time he was willing to take the risk. As he returned to his car, he felt something new, a glimpse of hope, a connection that he knew would change his life forever. In the days that followed, Alexander could no longer fully immerse himself in his routine. Even as he tried to regain focus during meetings and negotiations, the image of Lily and her straightforward words lingered in his mind like a puzzle he needed to solve. He knew she wasn't like the people in his circle. She didn't seek favors or try to impress him with his wealth, and that made her even more intriguing. Later that week, Alexander returned to the corner where Lily sold lemonade. This time, he arrived without his luxury car and expensive suit. He wore simple clothes, jeans and a t-shirt, trying to blend in with the neighborhood. When Lily saw him approaching, she raised an eyebrow, amused. "Now you're trying to look less intimidating?" she asked, preparing a cup of lemonade. "Maybe. I thought I might seem more approachable," Alexander replied with a sincere smile. Lily handed him the cup and shook her head, laughing softly. You don't need to try so hard, Alexander. Just showing up here is already unexpected enough. Alexander took a sip of the lemonade, but his attention was entirely on Lily. He noticed the dark circles under her eyes, signs of sleepless nights. He wanted to ask what was going on, but knew he needed to earn her trust first. "And your grandmother?" he asked, recalling the brief mention she had made during their last conversation. Lily hesitated for a moment, surprised by the question. "She's okay considering everything," she replied, her voice carrying a tone of exhaustion and worry that she tried to hide. "But don't worry about it. We've got enough problems without needing a billionaire to get involved." Alexander gave a faint smile but didn't miss the chance to offer, "Maybe I can help. Not with money, if that's not what you want, but in some other way." Lily looked at him as if trying to gauge his sincerity. It was clear she was used to fighting her battles alone, but something in Alexander's expression made her pause. "You're really willing to help someone like me?" "Why?" she asked, almost challenging him. Alexander took a deep breath before responding, carefully choosing his words. "Because I see something in you I don't see in the people around me. Courage, determination, and maybe a little stubbornness," he added with a playful smile. "And I admire that." Lily looked away for a moment, as though unsure how to respond. Finally, she shook her head. "All right, Alexander, but only because I'm curious to see how far this persistence of yours goes. But let me warn you, my life isn't a fairy tale." Alexander smiled, feeling as though he had taken a small step closer to her. Later that day, when he returned to his office, Alexander asked one of his trusted assistants to discreetly investigate Lily's situation. He discovered that her grandmother, Eleanor, was gravely ill and that the costs of her medical treatment were overwhelming. On top of that, Lily was deeply in debt to a man named Victor, known for his brutal practices as a loan shark. Hearing the details filled Alexander with a mix of indignation and determination. He knew Lily would never accept direct help, but that wouldn't stop him from finding a way to intervene. He began carefully planning how to ease her burdens without her realizing it. The next day, Alexander returned to the corner with a plan in mind. He spent more time talking to Lily, trying to learn more about her. With every answer she gave, it became clearer that she carried far more weight on her shoulders than anyone should have to bear. "Do you have a plan to get out of this situation?" he asked carefully. Lily shrugged, offering a tired smile. "I do the best I can. One day at a time, you know. I don't have much of a choice." Alexander felt a pang in his chest as he heard her words. He wasn't used to caring this much about someone else, but with Lily it was different. He knew he had to do something, and quickly. As he left, he glanced back, watching Lily work with her tireless energy. In that moment, he decided he would do everything in his power to help her, even if it meant working in the shadows. That night, Alexander set his plan into motion. He made calls, using his connections to arrange a medical appointment for Eleanor with one of the country's top specialists. He also began gathering information on Victor and his operations, determined to find a way to eliminate the threat hanging over Lily. For Alexander, this wasn't just about helping someone. It was an opportunity to do something that truly mattered, something that for the first time in a long while gave his life a real sense of purpose. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was willing to risk everything to protect her, and maybe to earn the trust she was so hesitant to give. In the days that followed, Alexander stayed in subtle contact with Lily, always respecting her space while trying to learn more about her daily life. Each encounter only reinforced his resolve to help her, even if he had to act behind the scenes. Meanwhile, his plan to address her grandmother's situation and deal with Victor was beginning to take shape. One afternoon, Alexander returned to the corner where Lily sold lemonade. He found her with the same energy as always, but this time he noticed she looked more tired than usual. Her eyes were focused on the sidewalk, but the determination that had impressed him so much remained unshaken. "You should take a break," he said as he approached. Lily looked up and gave a small smile. "Breaks are a luxury I can't afford right now, Alexander, but thanks for the concern." He didn't reply immediately. He knew that insisting would only make her retreat further. Instead, he tried to shift the focus of the conversation. "And your grandmother? How is she?" Lily hesitated, as she always did when the subject of her grandmother came up. Alexander noticed how she had a habit of hiding her worries behind quick responses. "We had to cancel an important appointment. The doctor she needs is too expensive and, well, I'm still trying to save up the money." Alexander felt a pang in his chest, but kept his expression neutral. He knew the appointment was already scheduled thanks to his connections, and that Lily would receive the news soon. But he decided not to reveal anything just yet. "I see. If you need anything, even if it's just someone to talk to, you know where to find me," he said, trying to convey sincerity. Lily looked at him for a moment, as if trying to understand why he was so determined to be a part of her life. "You're persistent, aren't you?" she said at last. "I'm not used to people like you." Alexander gave a faint smile, noticing a hint of curiosity in her voice. "Maybe I'm not used to people like you either, Lily." She laughed softly, but her expression quickly turned serious again. "Just don't get too involved, Alexander. I know how to handle my problems." He didn't respond, simply nodding in agreement, even though he knew he couldn't stand by while she faced everything alone. That same day, Lily received an unexpected call. It was from the office of a renowned doctor, informing her that her grandmother had an appointment scheduled for the next day. Lily was stunned. "There must be some mistake. I didn't schedule anything," she said, trying to clarify the situation. "No, Ms. Carter, everything is confirmed, and the costs have already been covered by an anonymous donor." Lily hung up, confused and suspicious. She couldn't imagine who might have done this, but the thought of accepting such help unsettled her. Even so, she knew she couldn't pass up the opportunity to secure better care for her grandmother. The next day, she took Eleanor to the appointment. The doctor was attentive and explained that her grandmother's condition was delicate, but that treatments were available to ease her symptoms and improve her quality of life. Lily left the office feeling a mix of relief and unease. Someone was interfering in her life, and she didn't know whether to feel grateful or worried. Meanwhile, Alexander was tackling another part of his plan, Victor. The information he had gathered about the loan shark made it clear just how much danger Lily was in. Victor was notorious for using brutal methods to collect debts and intimidate anyone who missed deadlines. Alexander used his network to apply subtle but effective pressure on Victor's operations. He began shutting down some of the loan shark's smaller dealings, making it harder for him to expand his network. At the same time, Alexander gathered evidence of Victor's illegal activities, ready to use it as leverage if necessary. Victor, however, realized something was wrong. His revenue streams were drying up, and he knew someone was interfering with his business. Determined to find out who was behind it, he increased the pressure on Lily, demanding repayment of her debt on an even shorter timeline. One evening, Lily came home exhausted, only to find Victor waiting for her at the door. He was accompanied by two burly men, and his presence filled the space with tension. "You're late, Lily, and this isn't going to end well for you," Victor said with a cruel smile. Lily took a deep breath, trying not to show fear. "I already told you I'll pay. I just need more time." "Time?" Victor let out a cold laugh. "I think I've been generous enough. Maybe I should collect in another way. Your grandmother, for instance." Before he could finish the sentence, a deep voice interrupted the conversation. "I think I've heard enough." Alexander appeared on the street, his imposing figure standing out under the dim light. Lily was shocked to see him there, and Victor immediately recognized who he was. "And who are you?" Victor asked, trying to mask his discomfort. "Someone who's willing to end your fun, Victor." Alexander stepped forward, his voice firm and controlled. "Leave Lily and her grandmother alone, or I promise your life will get much harder." Victor laughed, but there was tension in his eyes. "You think you can intimidate me? Money doesn't solve everything, Weber." Alexander simply smiled, cold and calculated. "You're right. But influence does." The tension between the two was almost palpable, and Lily, unsure of what to do, tried to intervene. "Alexander, please, leave. I can handle this." He looked at her for a moment, his expression softening. "Not this time, Lily. I promised I wouldn't let you face this alone." The night was far from over, but Alexander knew this was only the beginning of his confrontation with Victor, and he was ready for anything. Victor narrowed his eyes, clearly assessing the situation. he knew Alexander wasn't just a rich man. He was dangerous in a different way. While his enforcers stood silently, Victor stepped forward, trying to maintain control of the situation. "All right, Weber, let's make a deal. She pays me, and I disappear. Simple as that," he said, with a calculated smile. Alexander crossed his arms, keeping his commanding stance. "You don't understand, Victor. There's no deal. You're canceling the debt. Now." The loan shark let out a dry laugh, though his confidence was visibly shaken. "And why would I do that?" Alexander stepped closer, his voice turning cold and sharp. "Because if you don't, I'll destroy everything you've built. Your businesses, your connections, even your freedom. I already have enough evidence to ruin you. I'm just giving you the chance to walk away without a public scandal." Victor tried to maintain composure, but the sweat on his brow was noticeable. He knew Alexander wasn't bluffing. His reputation had already been weakened by the recent disruptions to his operations, and now with a man as powerful as Alexander confronting him directly, the odds were against him. "Fine, Weber. You win. The debt is cancelled." Victor turned to Lily, pointing a finger at her. "But remember, girl, he solved this, not you." Before Lily could respond, Victor walked away, his enforcers silently following. The tension in the air began to fade, but Lily felt as though the ground was about to give way beneath her. She turned to Alexander, her eyes full of emotion, anger, relief, confusion, all swirling in a storm. "Why did you do this?" she asked, her voice laced with frustration. "I didn't ask for your help." Alexander kept his gaze steady, though there was a softer edge to his expression now. "I know you didn't, Lily, but I wasn't going to stand by while you were being threatened, not when I could do something about it." "You don't understand," she exclaimed, her voice rising. "This isn't about the money or the threats. It's about who I am, about my life. You're interfering without knowing what this means to me." Alexander took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "I understand more than you think. I know you're strong and that you've always fought on your own, but sometimes accepting help isn't weakness. It's just human." Lily stared at him for a long moment, wrestling with the emotions swirling inside her. She wanted to hate him for interfering, but at the same time she knew he had saved her grandmother and freed her from Victor. "You might have cancelled the debt, Alexander, but that doesn't change how I feel. It's still hard to trust you, hard to believe that someone like you genuinely cares." Alexander stepped closer, his voice low and filled with sincerity. "I'm not expecting you to trust me right away. I just want you to know that I'm here, not to control your life but to walk beside you if you'll let me." Lily averted her gaze, trying to hide the tears welling in her eyes. After a long silence, she finally spoke, her voice almost a whisper. "This is new for me. I don't know how to handle it." "Then we'll figure it out together," Alexander replied without hesitation. Lily looked at him again, her expression softening. She was still torn, but for the first time she felt that maybe she didn't have to carry all the weight alone. In the days that followed, Lily's life began to change in subtle but meaningful ways. Her grandmother's appointment marked the start of better treatment, and the constant fear of Victor's threats disappeared. Even so, Lily remained hesitant to let Alexander fully into her life. She appreciated his help, but her pride and fear of relying on someone else were barriers she found hard to overcome. Alexander, for his part, didn't push her. He respected her space but stayed present. Whenever he could, he stopped by the corner where she still sold lemonade, not to interfere but to show her that he was there, available. One day, as they talked, Lily finally let her guard down a little. "Why do you really do this?" she asked. "It's not just about helping me. It seems like this means something bigger to you." Alexander thought for a moment before replying. "Because you showed me something I had forgotten, Lily, what it feels like to truly care about someone. I've spent years chasing things that never brought me happiness, but you're different. You've made me want to be a better person." Lily fell silent, touched by his honesty. No matter how hard she tried to resist, she knew she was beginning to feel something for Alexander, something that scared her but also made her want to believe. "Maybe you're better than I thought, Christopher Weber," she said with a small smile. Alexander smiled back, feeling that, little by little, he was earning the place in her heart that he so deeply desired. As their relationship began to evolve, new challenges loomed on the horizon. Victor hadn't disappeared entirely, and other obstacles would test the bond between Alexander and Lily. But for the first time, both felt they weren't alone in facing whatever was to come. The following weeks were marked by a cautious coexistence between Alexander and Lily. She continued selling lemonade, more out of pride and determination than necessity. Even with the debt cancelled and her grandmother's problems alleviated, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that accepting Alexander's help made her vulnerable. Yet her resistance was beginning to waver, and Alexander, patient as ever, treated each small step she took toward him as a victory. One evening, after another long day of work, Lily returned home to find Alexander waiting at the entrance of her building. He was holding a paper bag and appeared more relaxed than usual, dressed in casual clothes instead of his typical formal attire. "What are you doing here?" she asked, crossing her arms, though her tone was less defensive than usual. "I thought you might want some company for dinner," he replied, lifting the bag. "I brought food. Nothing fancy, I promise." Lily narrowed her eyes but ended up smiling. "All right, but only because I'm hungry." They went up to the small apartment Lily shared with Eleanor. It was modest but cozy. Eleanor, who was slowly recovering, smiled warmly when she saw Alexander. "It's good to see you again, young man. Lily doesn't say much, but I know you've helped us a lot." "I'm glad I could help, Mrs. Carter," Alexander replied with a respectful nod. They ate dinner together, and the conversation flowed naturally. For the first time, Lily allowed herself to relax in Alexander's presence. She still wasn't entirely comfortable with the idea of relying on him, but something about his presence made her feel like she wasn't alone. Meanwhile, Victor, despite being forced to cancel Lily's debt, hadn't completely backed down. He saw Alexander as a direct threat to his control over the local underworld. Behind the scenes, Victor began gathering information on Alexander, determined to find a way to retaliate. Victor understood that targeting Lily directly was risky, but he also realized that Alexander had put his reputation and influence on the line to protect her. That made her a vulnerable point in his armor. On a Sunday afternoon, Lily was closing up her lemonade stand when she noticed a man standing at the corner watching her. He was wearing a cap and casual clothes, but something about his stance made her uneasy. When she turned to gather her belongings, she noticed he had disappeared. The next day, the same man appeared again, this time at a greater distance, but still clearly observing her. Lily tried to ignore him, but the feeling of being watched began to unsettle her. When Alexander came to see her that evening, she told him about the strange man. "Do you think it could be something to do with Victor?" she asked, the worry evident in her voice. Alexander immediately became alert. He knew Victor wasn't the kind of person to take defeat lightly. "It's possible, I'll look into it," he said, trying to reassure her. "In the meantime, be careful. Don't walk alone at night, and let me know if you see him again." Lily agreed, though her frustration was palpable. She hated the idea that even after everything, Victor could still control her indirectly. Alexander acted quickly. Using his network of contacts, he discovered that Victor had sent one of his men to keep an eye on Lily. He also learned that Victor was trying to form alliances with other loan sharks to regain his lost influence. Alexander decided it was time to put an end to the situation once and for all. He arranged a meeting with Victor in a neutral location, ensuring his power and presence would be undeniable. When Victor arrived, flanked by two men, he found Alexander waiting in an empty room, accompanied by two of his trusted security guards. The tension in the air was almost suffocating. "Weber," Victor said with a fake smile, "I thought we had everything settled." "I thought so too," Alexander replied, his voice calm but full of authority. "So why are you still going after Lily?" Victor chuckled nervously, though there was an edge of fear in his tone. "I'm not doing anything. Just protecting my interests." "Your interests ended the moment you interfered in her life. Let me make this clear. If you try anything, if I hear that anyone has bothered her, you'll lose more than just your money or your business. I'll make sure you have no space left to operate." Victor hesitated. He knew Alexander wasn't bluffing. His reach and influence were immense, and Victor couldn't afford to take the risk. Finally, he raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. "Fine. You win, Weber. I'll back off." "Make sure that's true, Victor. There won't be a second chance. When Alexander returned to Lily, he didn't share the details of the encounter. He simply assured her that she wouldn't have to worry about Victor anymore. Lily, however, sensed that something had changed. Alexander was more determined, more protective, and it left her feeling torn between gratitude and fear of becoming completely dependent on him. "Why do you do all this, Alexander?" she finally asked. He looked her in the eyes, his expression soft but serious. "Because you matter to me, Lily, more than anything I've ever had in my life." Lily remained silent, his words echoing in her mind. For the first time she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could trust him. And in that moment something shifted between them. An invisible barrier Lily had built finally began to crumble. In the days that followed, Lily's life began to take an unexpected turn. For the first time in a long while, she felt the weight she carried had lightened. Victor was out of the picture, and her grandmother Eleanor was showing signs of improvement with her new treatment. But despite the positive changes, Lily still felt conflicted. The feelings she had for Alexander, which she had tried so hard to suppress, now seemed impossible to ignore. Alexander, on the other hand, was more present than ever. He visited her frequently, always bringing something simple, a book, flowers, or just light-hearted conversation to distract her. He respected Lily's space, but his devotion was evident, and it touched her deeply. One evening, as they walked through the neighborhood after another day at her lemonade stand, Lily finally broke the silence hanging between them. "You've changed my life in a way I didn't expect," she said, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "And honestly, that scares me." Alexander looked at her, surprised by her sudden honesty. He knew Lily guarded her feelings carefully, as a way to protect herself. "I don't want you to feel scared, Lily," he replied with equal sincerity. "I want you to feel safe. I want you to know that, with or without my help, you're the strongest person I've ever met." Lily stopped walking and turned to face him, her eyes meeting his. For the first time, she allowed him to see what she truly felt: gratitude, affection, and fear of opening herself up to something new. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," she admitted, her voice almost a whisper. Alexander took a step toward her, maintaining a respectful distance but close enough for her to feel the reassurance of his presence. "It doesn't matter how long you need, Lily. I'll be here." She took a deep breath, feeling his words echo in her heart. It wasn't just what he said, but how he said it. The calm, patience, and respect he showed made her feel that maybe, just maybe, she could trust him. That same night, Alexander returned home feeling more hopeful than ever. He knew he was slowly earning Lily's trust, and that the bond between them was growing stronger. Still, he understood that their journey was far from over. There was much to overcome, both Lily's past and the challenges that lay ahead. Meanwhile, Lily, alone in her small apartment, reflected on everything that had happened. She thought about Alexander, about how he had entered her life so unexpectedly and changed everything. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to imagine a future where she wasn't alone, a future where she had someone by her side, not to save her, but to support her. As the days passed, Lily began to lower her defenses. She accepted Alexander's invitation to dinner at a simple restaurant, far from the spotlight and opulence she feared. During dinner, they laughed, talked, and for the first time, Lily felt completely at ease in his presence. "You know, you're different from what I imagined when we first met," Lily said, playing with the napkin on the table. "Different how?" Alexander asked, curious. "I thought you were just an arrogant billionaire trying to buy your way into people's lives, but now I see that you're—" She paused, searching for the right words. "Human." Alexander laughed, a genuine laugh he rarely shared with anyone. "I'm glad you realized that, even if it took some time." Lily smiled, and in that moment something shifted between them. There was no more tension, just a quiet understanding, a connection they were both ready to explore. As their relationship blossomed, a new threat began to form in the shadows. Victor, though forced to back off, hadn't given up entirely. He knew Alexander was powerful, but he also knew that no one was untouchable. Determined to regain his power and status, Victor began planning an indirect attack. He knew targeting Alexander directly would be suicidal, But hurting someone Alexander cared about, that could be the perfect revenge. One night, as Lily was walking home, she realized she was being followed. The same man she had noticed weeks earlier was now trailing her more closely. She quickened her pace, trying to stay calm, but panic began to set in. When she reached her building, the man disappeared, but the fear lingered. Lily called Alexander and told him what had happened. He arrived within minutes, visibly concerned and determined. "This ends now," Alexander said, with a firmness Lily had never seen before. He promised to protect her, no matter what it took. And that night, Alexander realized that his fight for Lily was just beginning. But he was ready to face anything because for the first time in his life, he had something worth fighting for. And Lily, though scared, began to realize that maybe she didn't have to fight alone. Alexander didn't waste any time. The next morning, he mobilized his personal security team and hired a private protection firm. Although he knew Lily would hate the idea of being watched, he wasn't willing to take any risks. Without revealing the details to her, he discreetly positioned agents to monitor her movements and ensure her safety. Meanwhile, he spent time delving deeper into Victor's activities. With the help of his contacts, Alexander discovered that Victor was quietly reorganizing his operations. He was still dangerous, but more cautious now, knowing that Alexander was watching closely. Lily, for her part, began to notice subtle changes around her. She saw men sitting in parked cars nearby or unfamiliar faces at the corner. At first it unnerved her, but when she confronted Alexander about it, he was direct. "I won't let anyone hurt you or your grandmother. That's non-negotiable," he said firmly, leaving no room for argument. Lily sighed, frustrated, but deep down she knew he was right. Even so, her independent nature made her resist his interference. "Alexander, I don't want to live in fear. That's not living," she said, crossing her arms. "And I don't want you taking unnecessary risks. If that means I have to go overboard, so be it." Lily shook her head, but the look in his eyes, a mix of determination and genuine concern, softened her resolve. "Fine, but you owe me some peace at least." Alexander smiled, relieved. He knew that this small concession was a significant step for her. A few days later, while Lily was at her lemonade stand, a black car pulled up at the corner. A man stepped out, carrying an envelope. Approaching cautiously, he handed it to her. "This is for you," he said before walking away quickly. Confused, Lily opened the envelope. Inside was a photo of her and Alexander walking together one evening in the neighborhood. On the back of the photo, a handwritten message read, "Nothing lasts forever. Enjoy it while you can." Lily's heart raced. She knew this was a warning, a veiled threat. Without thinking twice, she called Alexander and told him what had happened. "I'm on my way," he responded immediately. Alexander arrived minutes later, accompanied by 2 security guards. He examined the photo and the message, his eyes growing cold and calculating. "Victor," he muttered. "He's trying to intimidate you." Still holding the photo, Lily tried to control the mix of anger and fear churning inside her. "He's not going to stop, is he? Even after everything, he's still playing games with us." Alexander placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry. This ends now. I promise." That night, Alexander devised a plan to put an end to Victor's influence once and for all. He gathered all the evidence he had collected against the loan shark, illicit financial records, criminal connections, and testimonies that could be used against him. With the help of a contact in the police department, Alexander ensured that Victor would be investigated and eventually arrested. Meanwhile, Lily struggled to process the emotional whirlwind surrounding her. She was grateful for Alexander's support, but she also felt the weight of the situation. Threats, surveillance, and now the possibility of retaliation. It all felt surreal. One evening, while they were together in her apartment, Lily finally let her walls down. "Alexander, I don't know how you handle all of this. Why do you do so much for me?" she asked, her voice heavy with emotion. He looked at her, his expression gentle yet intense. "Because you're the first real thing in my life. I never knew what it meant to care about someone until I met you." Lily was silent, her emotions bubbling to the surface. Finally, she gave a small smile, filled with gratitude and something deeper. "You're unbearably stubborn, you know that." Alexander chuckled softly, pulling her into a hug. For the first time, Lily allowed herself to completely relax in his arms, feeling that despite everything she might actually be safe. A few days later, the police launched an operation that dismantled much of Victor's operations. He was arrested on charges of extortion, money laundering and making threats, all thanks to the evidence Alexander had provided. With Victor out of the picture, the atmosphere around Lily finally began to shift. Even with the threat removed, Lily knew there were still challenges ahead. Her life was changing and her relationship with Alexander was deepening in ways she never imagined. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that there might be a future by his side. And Alexander, now more certain than ever, was ready to fight for that future, no matter what lay ahead. With Victor out of the picture, Lily's life began to settle into a new rhythm. The constant feeling of danger was replaced by a tranquility she hadn't experienced in years. Still, she knew her path with Alexander wouldn't be easy. Despite all the help he had given her, her independence remained an essential part of who she was. Allowing someone as powerful as him into her life felt like stepping into uncharted territory. Alexander, on the other hand, was more determined than ever. For the first time in years, he had found a purpose that went beyond his cold and methodical routine. Lily made him want to be better, not just for her, but for himself. And that was something he wasn't willing to lose. One afternoon, as Lily was closing her lemonade stand, Alexander appeared with a relaxed smile but a glint of anticipation in his eyes. "Are you hungry?" he asked, as if suggesting something casual. Lily raised an eyebrow, suspicious. "Why do you ask?" "Because I want to take you somewhere special, and I promise it's not a fancy restaurant," he replied with a playful tone. She hesitated for a moment but eventually smiled. "All right, but only because you promised it wouldn't be extravagant." They drove out of the city to a small lakeside restaurant. The place was simple but charming, with wooden tables and soft lights reflecting off the water. Lily was surprised, expecting something completely different. "This is beautiful," she said, taking in her surroundings. "I thought you might like it. It's one of the few places I go when I need peace," Alexander said with a sincere smile. They sat down and ordered food, and the conversation flowed naturally. For the first time, Lily felt completely at ease with Alexander, as though the weight of their differences was beginning to fade. "You're really not what I thought you were, Alexander," she admitted, fiddling with the napkin on the table. "I hope that's a good thing," he replied playfully. "It is. You've shown me that not everything about your world is as I imagined." Alexander looked at her for a long moment, feeling a wave of gratitude for her words. "And you've shown me what really matters in life. Something I've never had before." Lily looked away, blushing slightly. It was rare for her to open up emotionally, but something about his honesty made her feel safe. As the evening went on, their connection felt stronger than ever. On the way back, Alexander stopped the car at a lookout point with a stunning view of the city. The lights twinkled in the distance, creating an almost magical backdrop. "Why did you stop here?" Lily asked, curious. "Because I want to tell you something, and I thought this was the right place," he replied, turning to face her. Lily remained silent, waiting. "Since I met you, my life has completely changed. You've made me see the world in a way I never imagined. And more than that, you've made me want to be a better person. Not for a deal or a business venture, but for you. Because you're the most important thing that's ever happened to me." Lily felt tears welling in her eyes, but tried to hold them back. "Alexander," she began, but her voice faltered. "You don't have to say anything now. I just want you to know how I feel, and that no matter what happens, I'll always be by your side." She looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, and for the first time let all her defenses fall. "I feel the same way," she finally admitted with a soft smile. "I was just afraid to say it." Alexander didn't hesitate. He took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers, and in that moment, they both knew they were ready to face anything together. As their relationship blossomed, new challenges began to emerge. With Victor out of the picture, other players in the underworld started to maneuver, seeking to fill the void he left behind. Alexander knew he would need to remain vigilant to ensure Lily's safety. At the same time, Lily was still learning to balance her independence with the support Alexander was so willing to provide. It was a slow process, but both of them were navigating this new chapter of their lives together. One sunny morning, as they sat on the porch of Lily's apartment, Eleanor watched them with a warm smile. "You two make a good team, you know," she said, breaking the peaceful moment. Lily laughed while Alexander looked at Eleanor with an amused expression. "I think we're learning to be," Lily replied, a sparkle in her eyes. And for the first time, she felt like she was building something real, something that could last. The fear that had once held her back now felt distant, replaced by hope and determination. Even with the momentary peace, both of them knew the world around them was unpredictable. But together, they were ready for whatever came next, confident that as long as they had each other, they could overcome any obstacle. The relationship between Alexander and Lily deepened in the weeks that followed. With Victor out of the picture and external threats diminished, they began to experience something close to a normal life. Alexander, accustomed to a routine where everything was calculated and controlled, discovered the beauty in the simplicity of the moments he shared with Lily. For her, his constant presence and genuine support were proof that perhaps trusting someone again was possible. One day, Alexander took Lily on a drive out of the city. They traveled for hours until they reached a secluded property surrounded by rolling green hills and a breathtaking view of the countryside. "What is this place?" Lily asked, awestruck. "A house I bought years ago but never used," Alexander replied with a smile. "I thought you might like it." Lily looked around, taking in the tranquility of the place. She knew this gesture was much more than just a casual outing. Alexander was showing her a side of himself that few people knew, a more vulnerable human side. They spent the day exploring the property, laughing and sharing stories. As the sun set, Alexander led Lily to a lookout point with a perfect view. "You know, it's not just my life that's changed," he said, looking at her intently. "It's my future, and I can't imagine it without you." Lily was silent for a moment, moved by his words. She knew that opening her heart to Alexander had been the hardest, and yet the most right decision she'd ever made. "I won't lie, Alexander. I'm still scared. I still feel uncertain. But you've shown me that sometimes it's worth taking a risk," she said with a soft smile. "And I'm ready to take that risk for you." Alexander took her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. "That's all I need." Despite the peaceful moment, Alexander knew that the real world would eventually come knocking. His businesses demanded attention, and even with Victor eliminated, there were people from Lily's past who could still cause problems. He tightened security around her and Eleanor, but decided it was time to involve Lily more directly in his life. One morning, Alexander brought Lily to the headquarters of Weber Enterprises. She had never visited his empire before, but she knew it was a significant part of who he was. "Why did you want to bring me here?" she asked as they walked through the luxurious lobby. "Because I want you to know my world," he replied, "and I want you to know you're part of it now." Lily was touched by the gesture. As they walked through the corridors, Alexander introduced her to his team and explained some of the projects he was working on. Lily, who had always seen him as distant and untouchable, began to see the human side behind the billionaire. Meanwhile, challenges from Lily's past continued to linger. An old associate of Victor's, looking to take advantage of the power vacuum he'd left behind, began probing Lily for information about Alexander. She realized that, even with Victor gone, there were still people willing to exploit her connection to Alexander for their own gain. One day, while she was alone at her stand, a man appeared asking questions about Alexander. He tried to pose as a customer, but Lily saw through his intentions. "I don't know who you are, but I'm not playing your game," she said firmly. The man laughed but eventually walked away. Lily knew she needed to tell Alexander and shared everything with him that evening. "Don't worry, Lily. This only reinforces my decision to make sure you're always protected," Alexander said with determination. "I won't let anything or anyone hurt you." Alexander's determination to protect Lily culminated in another victory. He used his influence to dismantle the efforts of the man who had approached her, ensuring he would never come near her again. This time, Lily didn't resist his help. She knew that together, they were stronger. Months passed, and their lives began to find balance. Eleanor's health continued to improve, and Lily, though initially reluctant, accepted Alexander's proposal to expand her small business. He helped fund a beverage shop where Lily could sell her famous lemonade and other creations. She insisted on keeping the shop simple, but it was an immediate success. Alexander, meanwhile, began re-evaluating his own life. He slowed down in his business dealings, delegating more responsibilities so he could focus on what truly mattered, spending time with Lily and Eleanor. One evening, while they were having dinner at home, Alexander paused in the middle of the conversation and looked at Lily intently. "Lily, you've changed everything for me. My life, my way of thinking, my view of the world. And I want you to know that no matter what happens, I'll always be by your side." Lily, surprised by the seriousness in his tone, smiled. "And I'll be by your side, Alexander, always." He smiled back, and in that moment, they both knew they had found something rare and precious, something that neither power, wealth, nor the hardships of the past could destroy. Together, they began building a new life, a future full of love, challenges, and achievements. Alexander, the man who had learned to open his heart, and Lily, the woman who never gave up her dignity or strength, proved that even the deepest differences can be overcome when there is love and courage.